Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. And if the economy is off to the races, why is it so many still feel down for the count? Because even though the recovery is well along, 2 out of 3 Americans in a new Fox poll still think we're in a recession. That could explain all the tepid spending and that surprising nearly full percentage point drop in retail sales last month. It could also explain why the likes of Best Buy and Tiffany's and even Intel are all lowering their forecasts, convinced that those big jobs gains the administration likes to brag about are not coming with big wage gains. Incomes are flat. And now former Best Buy boss Brad Anderson and Swiss America Chairman Craig Smith fear the economy itself could be flatlining. So, Craig, to you first on that. That's been a concern of yours for a while. More so now?
Yes, indeed. And you just stole my thunder, Neil. You just cited the numbers. Look, retail sales are down. Year over year, they're up a little bit, but not anywhere near what they should be with a Fed-fueled, recovery. And look at job growth. Yes, we have 252,000 new jobs, terrific, but real wages dropped. Hours worked dropped. And while we see the consumer seeing some relief at the pump, he's getting a little bit more money in his pocket because of lower gas prices. That's surely not translating into them going out and spending it in the retail sector. So I think you're going to see forecasts change dramatically for 2015. I'll be real curious to see what Brad has to say about it as a retailer, because he has to feel these effects straight across the board.
It just doesn't jibe with numbers that otherwise look good. We've come a long way from where we were, Brad. But when you look at these polls, and I just quote the Fox ones, there are others that sort of confirm this, for want of a better word, malaise, or just sort of, we're just not feeling it. But when 2 out of 3 are not feeling it, that's quite telling. What do you make of it?
Yeah, and I think retail sales in particular are very telling, because that's consumers acting with their pocketbook. So that's very close to the ground, and it's a strong sign of a lack of optimism. And those are comparison sales against the year before, which was terrible. So I do think it indicates, I was hopeful going from what we saw in the fall, that we would see a pretty robust recovery in the holiday selling season. And the fact that we haven't, I think, means that we're going to see diminished GDP growth, but still we're going to see GDP growth, and still relative to a lot of places in the world will do well.
Let me finish that retail thing with you, Brad, before I go back to Craig. Do you buy those numbers that they were that soft during the holiday period with the wind at consumers' back of these lower gas prices? They just don't make sense to me, but maybe they do. What do you think?
Well, but the consumers had, a lot of consumers have lost spending power, and they've lost a lot of spending power. And things like how many hours you work and what do you see on the horizon? I see a lot of companies are still, one of the things that big companies can do is they can still cut labor and improve profitability, and they're still doing that. And that has an impact on consumers' ability to spend. So I think there is a warning sign there in terms of looking at what the consumer is seeing close to them. That does mean we're not going to grow as fast as we could otherwise.
Craig, then spell this out for the markets.
Well, Brad said it all. It's confidence. Is the consumer confident enough to go out and take that pocketbook and spend that money? And with less hours worked and the potential of layoffs, now that we see oil prices coming down, which is a wonderful thing, we're going to also see a lot of people leave the oil and gas sector, the fracking sector. Look at the steel companies are cutting back because they're going to be using less pipe.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and look at rig and some of the guys that are drillers. So I think, Neil, what's happening is the average consumer desperately needs to feel confident that we are on the right track. And if you look at right track, wrong track polls, you're going to see that, in my opinion, I know this is going to sound partisan, Neil, until we see a change coming out of the White House, you are going to see people not have the sense of confidence necessary to go out and open up that wallet and spend their money. And look, Mr. Obama has had trade bills stuck in the Senate that he hasn't allowed Harry Reid to bring to his desk. That they're alone. And now he's threatening to veto the Keystone pipeline that creates jobs. So I think if we see confidence come back, I think we could have a good 2015. But Brad is right. The consumer is a little bit worried about money being cut back from their paychecks and their hours being cut back.
Guys, thank you both very much, I think. In the meantime, do not think that